In reference to the sophomore contributing track off of Mortemia's delightfully ever-expanding the COVID aftermath sessions, we certainly took a fun excursion, perhaps together, in fact, if we enjoyed the work simultaneously on this channel, with the Endless Shore. Truly a mesmeric piece, in my opinion. It is still so riveting and grand, at least in my opinion, with it, no matter how many re-listens I've given it, and I cannot tell you a specific number at this point. It's been a lot. Very significant piece, and my heart has been ever since longing for more off of this particular work. And as I thought, the evolution of the pandemic pandemonium sessions was great too, even though I experienced that a bit later, perhaps. Now I'm in present day enjoying Mortemia's releases as they happen. And with the Hourglass, we're returning back into what I would term the familiarized expectation and pattern of Mortemia. And I don't say that in any way, maybe it's a poor choice of words. I don't say familiar from a negative position. I mean it in the respect of how I decided to approach Mortemia coverage, with Morten Veland being, in my opinion, a visionary musician. I've truly been captivated by his achievements and capabilities in the music world, especially in the metal territory. Anything that he's touched, really. I haven't experimented with Tristania yet, but I have been covering as well as Sirenia. I'm sure there are many of you who are approaching this being Sirenia fans. More videos are incoming. In fact, I only have 3 published thus far off of Arcane Astral Aeons, and for the newer 2 albums, I've covered a good selection of tracks. Those are incoming at some point, hopefully soon. But with Mortemia, who I've been experimenting with for the past couple of months, I've really grown a liking to him in the sense of what I've termed, speaking in regards to Morten Veland being such a visionary, I've even given him his own sub-brand on this channel in the Mortemia model attribution. Maybe other people have borrowed that term, and maybe they came up with it before I did, but I don't know. From my understanding, it's maybe more of an originalist lingo, but I love with Mortemia the collaborative model and how it's allowing me to better enrich myself in understanding with the European metal scene and many astute faces in that realm of the music world. And many of you know how much I revere that space, and I recognize it all the time in regards to a very diverse pool of artists, from whether it be in certain name recognition or maybe emerging. I've had a lot of fun exploring around of such talented craft. And for me, that's what I look for in music. Music, generally speaking, is such a prized art form in my life, and it truly is one of my favorites. And it's always been a long-time aspiration to build out a focus of it on this channel. And it's, in the last couple of years, in fact, it's built up before, or even larger from what I originally thought it would be. But it's so beautiful to enjoy such wonderful works, and perhaps to create a space where maybe I can't necessarily see any of your faces, but we have plenty of good exchanges, in the comment sections, and I truly do admire the connection points that music forms. It's a fellowship opportunity. And to explore such good works together, especially on a first introduction, truly amplifies the experience for me in a way that I just crave endlessly. And with Mortemia, that's been universal. So to set a baseline maybe for anybody, again, I'm sure many of you are approaching from the dynamic of who Mortemia and Morten Veland is, of course, but maybe you don't. Think a triumphant, and again, in my opinion, I can't provide enough adulation, quite frankly, a Norwegian Gothic symphonic one-man metal artist with a very unique model in regards to the collaborative positioning, where it'll be him managing the music side and possibly lending some vocal talents, but he'll bring on a noteworthy talent from another group, primarily in Europe, but there's been some exceptions in the past. And in this case, again, as I said, I love the networking process and approachability of finding new talents. That's been what's been so key on this channel when I consider the Mortemia model. I prize that experience. And though we took a bit of a detour last time, again, being that Uli Perhonen, the contributing artist, as well as Niels Koaron, were both familiar to me, that hasn't been the case always. On some minor occasions, yes, but not with the Hourglass, in that, I'm going to try to get the pronunciation right, at least the first name I think is correct, Ambre Vourvahis. I welcome clarification down below if I'm wrong. She is, and this name is familiar to me because I've considered it in the list of many recommendations you all have supplied in various videos. Xandria has been a name that's come through, and I will be fast-tracking coverage of them. In fact, I've already picked out at this point. I decided to go with this. I'm like, let's enjoy a taste of, let's get the introduction to perhaps, as is habitual of me in the Mortemia model, let's use this track to introduce myself to Ambre's talents, and then we'll explore it later. Xandria videos, I've already picked out the selection. Those tracks are coming from, I think, the newest of releases. So there's a little prelude for you. In fact, I'm going to cover those probably soon after I film this. Anyway, I'm very interested to, again, engage with newer talents, at least to my introduction. And Ambre is that. She is, again, for anybody maybe that's a similar position, maybe some of you are familiarized Xandria fans. Have been around for quite a while. I know there's a bit of a hiatus. I was reading about some other history, but they've since had a resurgence with Ambre serving as the lead vocalist there. And I believe they're a German group in attribution, but she is, from my understanding, a French-Greek musician or singer. I can't wait to hear her. I love foreign accents, especially French ones. I mean, speaking of Sirenia, I mean, Emmanuel Zoltan is just captivating enough. Let's hear... I've never spotlighted, though, a Greek musician yet, or a Greek band. I love the fresh flair that Mortemia brings all the time. Anywho, it's such an honor to spotlight such talented works of art, in my opinion, as Mortemia certainly qualifies in that regard universally. And I hope that we have a fun experience together, whether you be a longtime Mortemia fan and aficionado, or maybe you're building it out like me, or you're someone who's approaching, maybe from where I was, many moons ago with Mortemia, and that I'd never entertained him before. But since I've become a longtime fan, and I think you will too, if you're into symphonic metal or gothic metal, both entries, at least in this, me being a devout metalhead, of course, I look broadly speaking, various different types of feels within the metal scene. And, different artists, maybe a name recognition, and certainly on geography with this channel, but the symphonic and gothics environments are go-tos for me. So it's easily jived thus far, and I'm sure the Hourglass will be no different. And maybe for you, it'll be the same. I'm sure it will. We're going to go ahead and enjoy the track given for the first time, as well as, if you're not familiar with my coverage, there's a visualizer to accompany, as per usual with Mortemia. And I will try my best to, because I like to give complete coverage here and provide every tool that I can to suit listener tastes. If you're somebody that wants to read along with the narrative of the piece, I've been checking on this. I don't think there's been any official lyrical scripts that have been supplied yet. I'm going to try and do my best to decipher the lyrics out of a song. So you'll forgive me if maybe there's any attributions, if any discrepancies. I'm going to try my best to be perfect on that. We'll see. Anywho, I like to give you a complete takes. And again, if you want to read along with the storyline of a song as you proceed through a work, that'll be available to you. Because I don't think the video in this case is a lyrical video. Mortemia kind of diversifies around execution on that front. But I'm happy to provide that provision for anybody who desires it. All right. But let's introduce ourselves, perhaps for some of you, to Mortemia. For all of us, maybe not all of you, but at least for me, and I'm sure a good number, to Ambre Vourvahis. And soon incoming, as I said, Xandria, sure to follow at some point soon. I love piano openers. Let's go back to the Pandemic Pandemonium sections of that opener with the piano ballad, Devastation Bound, one of my favorites. Okay, good key. Amplified in force, I like it. Very tragic tone. So inviting, though. The background choir vocalizations. Reminds me a lot of Devastation Bound of a different key. I just love the feeling of it. Oh. Those whispered inflections that kind of trail off at the end. Mixed with the accent. She's become a quick favorite of mine, I'm sure. Quicker pacing on the keyboard work. And again, you've got that orchestral effect. That's so signature to Mortemia. It's great. Uh-oh. 3 tracks in. Golden collection so far. And a deeply resonant message, too. I mean, what I'm able to pick out here from the chorus. It's very connective. Great pattern here in structuring. Again, the organization of the track, this dips more into the faster, heavier energy with a sentimental side. An ever-perfect work from Morten. Put that emphasis up. I love that. Great placement. It reminds me, like I said, so much of Devastation Bound on the piano structure. It's just as exquisite on that one as it is here. It's really similar, even the vocalization pattern. You know, to be honest with you, part of me, I started tearing up a bit, at least in the corner of my eye. That's weird. I don't usually do that. You know, I love, like I said, spotlighting music on this channel, but there are certain tunes, and again, you know, when I consider everything I've covered at this point, there's not been one track from one artist that I've not loved. But they're all so unique and different. Symphonic metal just really touches me, especially with the gothic flair and a theme that's so resonant and sentimental, dealing with death and life, and if you want to call it that. The Hourglass is a great motif, and the way it's written, it touches you. It pierces your heart. Mortemia, I truly feel honored to have not only come across him several months ago, but to have the opportunity, in part, again, this is a key aspiration of mine. It's been very interesting to explore how my baseline goal of just wanting to bring music on to this channel in coverage, alongside of our art and entertainment expressions, how many goals accompanied that in the process, and what's evolved since. I truly do love, like I said, the fellowship experience, on part, again, if I can in any way manage this. And I won't know for sure until I get like some attribution. I've had that in the past, you know, upon public feedback. So I wouldn't know. I'm just, you know, putting in perhaps the instigator or initiator experience. But if I can pave routes for others, where you're somebody that's wanted to explore, or you just have that yearning in your heart to find new music that is so well crafted, but you haven't, maybe you've been in a bit of a standstill, like I don't know necessarily where to investigate further. The European landscape truly is such an achievement spot. I can't speak in high enough regard of it. But Mortemia, I really hope that if you're somebody who has that yearning, this is the music that pulls you in. Again, I feel truly honored to be in a space where I can highlight such paramount artistic expression. Morten Veland is always such a delight as an artist to humor from whatever endeavor it might be. On Vision, Mortemia always fulfills. And you know, like I said, I can't say it enough. I truly feel honored. Because for me, as a listener, and as somebody who just wants to find highly adept art, because I look in comparison to perhaps, and this is not me trying to throw, you know, unintentional shade, but I look, you know, by comparison to what my, you know, peers, my personal life are listening to, and it just, my music tastes, not just on the metal basis, but, just on the fact that I do gravitate toward the alternative. They've always put me in what I've said is more of an anomalies position. I just don't have that point of relation with others in my life on music tastes. And I wish I did. I do with a number of you. And I, again, like I said, I truly value this experience of exploring music at greater depth, especially in the European realm. There's been so much interaction between not only, well, of course, myself in responding, but so many of you have expressed your endless love and devotion, and even your knowledge as well. Many of you have educated me and given me such a good background, extensive knowledge on many artists and groups in particular. I truly do prize these experiences because of what it feels like for me. This is music that it's so fulfilling on experience. Not just in craftsmanship, not just in narrative, but as well, specifically in regards to Mortemia, the collaborative presences. After listening to this piece, I cannot wait to entertain the talents of Ambre. And I'll tell you, I did something as well in advance I don't often do. And this has happened a lot with Mortemia. The artists, let's say specifically in regards to both the COVID aftermath sessions and the pandemic pandemonium sessions. I said before, some of the artists that I've consulted on this channel, let's name a couple samples for selection, Metalite, Ad Infinitum, and Volturian. I purchased either a good selection of their songs to cover outright without any foreknowledge, or their albums. That was the case with Metalite and Ad Infinitum. I bought everything outright. I purchased all their music, without having entertained any of it, just on the Mortemia presence. And I've done the same with, at the very least, the newest album, the most recent, Off of Xandria. So when I said I'm intending to cover them and they're next, I mean it. They're sitting on my phone right now and I'm waiting. Just, again, with Mortemia, there's always this sense you have based on familiarity that the artist who's going to spotlight deserve your time and focus. If the Hourglass is anything, it's a beautiful prelude. It's many things, but it's a beautiful prelude to, I'm sure, the elation I'll experience upon diving into Xandria. Because if I consider the credit of Ambre here, what a wonderful first introduction. As always, if every artist Mortemia has brought on, I always have such a great time. And Ambre is no different. I love the presence of her voice. It is a bit of a daintier, let's see, because I did the comparison earlier with the French regard to Sirenia's Emmanuelle Zoldan, who has really impressed me. But her voice is more, I'd say, on the operatic side, so it takes on a bit of a different flair in terms of her accent's integration with her vocalization pattern. I really like the daintiness, especially the whisper effects, especially on the introductory verses with Ambre's voice. It's very mesmeric and transfixing for me when I hear it. It has that special quality that just infatuates your interest. And I feel on the chorus sections, her voice was a wonderful blend that gave dimension to a beautiful song, I'd say again, a narrative scope, and it really amplified the tune of the piece, which, as I said, on Mortemia's side, echoes Devastation Bound so specifically. In the pattern, the organization of a track as well, with the opener key pattern and the background vocalizations. I'm not sure if that's like the Sirenian choir, but at the very least it has an operatic tone, right? It's so fulfilling for somebody, again, who loves atmosphere and the feeling or the illusion that I'm sitting in like some symphonic performance, with a choir in front of me. This is with a metal twist, of course. This work is just so fulfilling, and I do feel that in context to the Hourglass, this is probably going to become one of my favorites. Of course, it stands alongside, Frozen and This Endless Shore quite well, but I love the tone to this. It has much more of like it's a softer number, right? Maybe by comparison to some of the harsher tunes off of the Pandemic Pandemonium sessions. It has that emphasized keyboard and percussion drive in part. It does feel more emboldened, but it just has this nice breeze feeling. It's dainty, like the wintertime scene it features in the video. It just showers on you with such gentleness. But I mean, ironically, if I'm speaking about cold weather conditions, it warms you. I don't know. Like I said, Mortemia's works they're so piercing to me. I just love hearing his capabilities as an artist on this channel. Like I said, I can't say it enough. It is truly an honor to not only engage with him, but as well to get an introduction to a fabulous vocalist on part of Ambre. And I cannot wait to hear more of her work. That was a wonderful first introduction. In terms of maybe the vocalists he's brought on, I mean, they've all been longtime favorites. She certainly stands up there for me. I knew she would. Again, that's been the pattern of every artist Mortemia's brought on at this point. I can't wait to see perhaps who's next. Maybe it'll be a familiar name to me, or maybe it'll be somebody else that I get to discover with you. And I love that experience. Again, it's not... Music is fun perhaps to enjoy by yourself, especially in exploration, but it's just... And I've learned this from my routine here. It's just not the same, right? Experiencing work... Granted, perhaps some would say maybe a bit of an unorthodox approach, where by comparison, if you were in your personal life and you were surrounded by your peers, physical people, and you're like, hey, let's enjoy this together, that'd be a very different experience, versus me talking to a screen and part being like, hey, enjoy this experience with me, even though I can't see you. I know, again, a bit of a different, unusual feeling, but for me, I love the experience listening to such adept musical production. And to have that simulation, at least on feeling that I'm experiencing this with others, and perhaps because of my understanding and earlier introduction to Mortemia, I'm now planting seeds with you, if I can. Because I would love to hear that maybe other people who have been in the position I used to be in are having their satisfactions fulfilled as well. Music is just, like I said, such a great fellowship experience, especially on principle introduction. And with Mortemia, that's been universal of his works, and the Hourglass is no different. I absolutely loved it. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it down below as well, if you wish to disclose your perspective, and whatever angle you approach, right? Long-time Mortemia listener or Sirenia fan, I know there's probably many of you, or first introductions. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are down below. Because for me, the Hourglass, again, if we part ways with the wintertime imagery, it just warms my heart. That is a beautiful number. Third one in, I'm having a great time with the evolution of the COVID aftermath sessions. I really cannot wait to see what's next. Not to say like, oh, I'm just longing to get to the next thing in exchange, but no, I want to sit with this piece again. Yeah, I'm sure it'll be just like the Endless Shore and Frozen, endless repeat listens. Not only to Mortemia's craftsmanship, but to Ambre as well. What a great vocal set to lend to a beautiful number. And again, I cannot wait to humor Xandria. They are coming very soon. But for this first introduction to her talents, as I love, again, the journey of the Mortemia model, as I call it, this is a wonderful contribution. I really love this piece. It truly touches me. And everything I'm looking for in symphonic Gothic metal territory, this achieves it. Thank you so much for watching this video. Before you bounce, feel free to drop a like and comment, subscribe to this channel with a ding on the bell, and share this video with your friends. And consider checking out the description here. There you'll find links to my other channels, as well as addresses to my other social media accounts and ways you can help support my work if you feel so inclined. May God bless you, and looking forward to when our paths cross again.